From the southeastern corner of western North Carolina, this is Folklore. I'm your host, James Hernishan. After more than 2 decades of wishful thinking and dead-end proposals, the Norfolk Southern railbed that runs through Polk County is about to be replaced with a cycling and walking path. The North and South Carolina legislatures have appropriated millions of dollars to buy the right-of-way from Inman to Tuxedo. The Saluda Grade Trail, as it will be known, now has a dedicated full-time project manager. This thing is happening. Because it will run through Tryon and Saluda, both municipal governments are trying to prepare for the inevitable, if unpredictable, changes that come with such an ambitious project, one that will probably end up costing $100 million when all is said and done. Eventually, if all the stars align, it could connect to the Acosta Trail that begins in Hendersonville and provide an unbroken path all the way to Brevard. Even communities that aren't on the trail itself are going to be affected, if the expected increase in traffic and taxes comes about. This is the second episode I've done on the topic, but I probably should have done more because there's a lot to do to get ready. The easiest portion of the route to transform from rails to trails lies at the bottom of the grade in South Carolina and runs through Landrum. It's likely the first town in Polk to see whatever benefits come from the project will be Tryon. So what's Tryon thinking? Who better to ask than Tryon Mayor J. Peoples. For those few unfamiliar with him, Allen has been mayor for most of this century. Before that, he was a county commissioner, an English teacher, and a coach. Even if you've never run into him, you'd probably recognize his Technicolor VW bus, vintage 1971. I used to have a 1975 model, and I'd love to have talked with him about our favorite automobile, but the bicycle tourism business is much more relevant now. As you'll hear, though, it's not always easy to stay focused on one topic when so much of our future economy is at stake. We talked a few days before summer solstice on the porch of the Polk County Library in Columbus. Mayor Allen Peoples, welcome to Folklore.
Thank you very much.
I should have probably had you on a long time ago. This subject of how to respond to a big change in Polk County in the form of the Saluda Grade Trail has finally gotten to the point where we all know it's happening. There was a community event at the Polk High School a few weeks ago, and you had some words to say at that. And you talked a lot about how money is going to be a main driver of how this works out for the county. So what does the Saluda Grade Trail mean to a town like Tryon?
Well, as I said the last time, when I got some smiles and some giggles out of it, it always revolves around money. Whatever you want to do, to change, to add to, or take away from, it involves money. It doesn't just happen. What I see happening in Tryon is that once you get to our town, move those trails into reality, you're going to see more people show up, more people spend more time there, and bring more money, which fuels our local economy. But not only does it fuel the local economy, the sales tax goes to the state and it comes back to point of origin, and we get a little extra money out of that to help us do things. That's what I'm talking about with funds. And when you have those funds that come from outside, you hopefully can put a little less burden on your local taxpayers.
Let's get an idea of the scale of this thing. We know roughly how much it's going to cost to build this thing, upwards of $100 million when you factor in purchasing and removal of the rails and construction of the new bike path. But how much money do you think it's going to return to, say, to Tryon?
That's the bullseye and the target. We don't know. We know from talking to people at the Swamp Rabbit and the Virginia Creeper and other places that it brings in lots of money. I can tell you that some people say, okay, overnight we're going to have a windfall. No, we aren't. You never have an overnight windfall in any business you do. And example, someone said, wow, SpaceX is now worth $2 trillion. It happened overnight. No, it didn't. How long have they been working on that? How long have we been working on the rails? I've been mayor for 22 years. This is the third attempt to put us walking trails through Tryon. The first two, we were pretty much by ourselves, didn't have any grants. We just had an idea, made a few T-shirts, and it fell through.
How long ago was that?
The first one was before 2010, and the second one, I think probably was after I came back. I lost a 2-year term, 13 to 15, and we, I think, had one before then and one after then. When they opened Rogers Park and had the summer tracks program, we started it then, and it's been a time since then. And the summer tracks program's like 25 years now, 24 or 25. So there've been an idea twice. And this one involved everybody. When I say everybody, from the beginning of that line to where it's supposed to end, it involved. And everybody who studies that quietly on the sign are saying, hey, if we get it to Saluda and pass, then there's the Acosta Trail that can connect to, then there's this trail that can connect to. And pretty soon you could have 30, 40, 50, 60, maybe even 70 extra miles tied to it. Isn't there one that runs through Rutherford County somewhere? All those are possibilities, and they don't all have to be rails to trails. They can just be trails and connect from point A to point B. And I know how those trails connect. I work a running camp and live on the campus of Brevard College most of the month of July. And we run the trails in the North Carolina parks and in the federal parks there. And those trails connect. Sometimes we can run 6 days in a week and never hit the same trail twice.
Right. So you were talking about how we've had this idea of, that has finally come to fruition because it's a much bigger project.
Yes.
And so there's more sums of money available. And in other words, it's not something that Tryon can take on its own. It had to be the states and even the federal government in an extent, because the railways are governed by the federal government.
Yes. One of the other things that we talked about there, we said, okay, maybe we can have an excursion line, just go from here to Saluda or from here to Campobello. But then you started talking about how much did you have to pay to get a locomotive? How much do you have to pay to get 2 cars? How much do you have to pay to get the tracks put back in? And that was not feasible for somebody as small as we are. Then there was an idea of those little pump cars.
Oh, yeah.
And they could take the handle off and put pedals on it, and 6 or 8 people could pedal it in a fairly flat area. And that fell through. I know I was told there were a couple of those set up somewhere in Pennsylvania, and they worked and they were fun. But you can't put so many people on the rail at a time. When you have a trail that you can walk, and let me tell you when my first one was. My first one was when I was a county commissioner, and that was somewhere between 1997 and 2000. I went to the national meeting in Portland, Oregon. And on the way, my wife, who's now passed away, she and I stopped at Columbia, Missouri. And I think that's where the University of Missouri is. And I got up the next morning. I'm a running coach, so I ran. And somebody said, there's a rail down here that's turned into a trail. So I jogged down about a half a mile and went on that. I went, oh my goodness. There were people riding bicycles. There were mothers pushing baby carriages with babies on them. There were people jogging. It was fantastic. And that was probably, I'm going to say 98. But that was fantastic. And then I saw the one in Virginia Creeper, when I used to go up there to a big flea market. And I thought, wow, this could be a good idea for Tryon. And so when I got to be mayor in 2001, I'm thinking in 2002 or 3 is when the idea started. I wish it had been my first idea, but it wasn't.
Well, the train only stopped running in 2001.
Yeah, but the real passenger trains and stuff like that stopped before then. The real draw stopped before then. When I got here, I moved to this county in 1979 as a principal. And when I got here, for all practical purposes, it was gasping. And it just wasn't feasible. I do know that the military wanted to keep those lines. There were 2 of them. One went to the east of here in Iowa. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel. And they talked about if there were a war and we needed them, they could continue to use the line to the east of us, I think it was, and that would go to Charleston to the port, and the one here could be connected and go to Savannah, so we could move war materials to both of those if we needed. And I think those days are gone. Yeah. I think that we have push-button wars now, in a sense, but to hold ground, you still have to put boots on the ground.
Okay, well, let's get back to the money, because again, that's what I want to make this all about.
There are several ways you can get money for that. One of them, if we have extra tax coming in, we could take some of that money and use it here. Now, since this is private property, we don't use taxpayers' money. But to put street lights, to put parking, to put picnic tables on the corner, yes, we could. The other thing that we could do is to pass an MSD, Municipal Service District. You know what that is?
I am somewhat familiar, yeah.
Okay, we would charge them X cents more per hundred valuation, but by state law, that can only be used in that area. So if you took that, and maybe what we could get back and donations, the backs of these streets could look differently. That's behind the coffee shop and what's now Railside. This is just an idea. I hired a lady to do this for us. I believe this one is where the bulletin is.
Okay.
I think the bulletin's in the center. And as you can see, it looks much different back there. And when I talk money, I'm talking about how are we going to expand Tryon?
You want to expand Tryon?
Yes. I need more businesses in Tryon. How do I do that?
Okay, yeah. You're not talking about geographically expanding.
No,
okay.
Absolutely
You're just
not.
building the economy of Tryon.
Yeah, building an economy and putting more businesses downtown. There is no side with businesses on it except for a couple where the tracks are. But almost all the buildings downtown, I think 7 or 8 if I counted right, I drove through this morning, have basements from 800 to 1,500 square feet. There's nothing in them. So if we could develop that back, put lights out to make women feel more comfortable, and men, street lights, put parking areas there, flowers, picnic tables like this, I believe we could draw and expand the business. Now, we don't have to put multi-million-dollar businesses there. My goal would be to put businesses that didn't require as much parking for customers. Example, if you wanted to put an attorney there, if you needed downtown a dentist there, something that draws people but requires less space at one time. So the money that you got from the rails to trails also pulls back in from the state to us. Add that to here. And hopefully all those would fill up, all the front ones would fill up and get some businesses that we really need there, more than some of what we have there. Restaurants, yes.
Well, I think a lot of people talk about restaurants. If you go down to the Swamp Rabbit Trail, there's a few restaurants along the trail, which is very popular. And obviously the Swamp Rabbit Trail is a successful project.
Yes, but you know what I want to see too? How about a bike shop? How about a shop that sells running shoes? They can't keep as many in stock as someplace like Dick's.
Yeah.
But there are an awful lot of people around here that like to buy local. I'm one of those. I like to buy local and pay cash.
Usually, though, the reason why we can't buy local for a lot of stuff is there's just not enough people to sustain, the market.
And that's why I'm hoping that there will be enough foot traffic to come down with this. Now, is it going to happen overnight? No. The trail's not going to happen overnight either. I said from the time it started until the time we finish it, we'll be lucky to get it done in 5 or 6 years.
Well, I think that might even be optimistic. Certainly up in Saluda, we're probably looking at even longer than that, right? The last part will be the Tryon to Saluda part.
The hardest part.
Yeah.
It really is.
But Inman through to Landrum and then Tryon, that's not very difficult, right?
No, it's not. The magic word, the dollar bills it takes there. And I'm thinking it's going to cost about 1.5 miles a mile, maybe more, to get it done correctly. And some other things I see happening along the way between Landrum and here If it's 50 feet, rails, the trail, 15, give or take a foot or two. Okay, from there to the level, you got to add another foot or so. Then in those flat areas, like that ground right there, if it's level, and people own that property, or we, when I say we, the towns of Landrum and those, Saluda, you can put some gravel there and there's another parking space. If you put parking spaces enough, or maybe on each side of the track you've got 15 here and 15 here, somebody's going to buy a small piece of property and put some little type of restaurant, little type of business, drinks, snacks, health stuff for kids that want to go out there, bottled water that you can get, those types of things.
Ice cream stand.
That's the first thing. Yes, I love an ice cream stand.
Yeah.
But those types of things I think will sprout up along the way. Now, I'm not talking about a dozen. I'm talking about maybe Landrum probably has a better shot than we do because of the open space coming towards North Carolina and going towards Inman and Campobello. There's some spaces there you could put a lot of parking. And there are people who really walk a long way. When I was still running before my knees gave out, I was getting 50 miles a week. And the last one I did, I was 70 running up White Oak Mountain.
Oh.
Quit. I couldn't make it. I got 2 miles of the 3.
So the trail is going to give towns like Tryon the opportunity to expand their economic base. But you're going to have to invest.
Yes.
Individual business owners are obviously going to have to take a chance and invest. Is the city itself, the town of Tryon, is it going to have to spend some resources?
Always. There's no way that you're going to maintain what we're looking for without putting some resources in. Now, I'll give you an example of a resource I'd like to see. You'd like to get people downtown. One of the problems we have right now, people say, y'all don't have any parking. I beg to differ. I've had this idea for 10 or 15 years. The Tryon Fine Arts Center does it right now. They got how many golf carts? They sleep up, a haul up to 6. You take those and you go to, let's just use an example, Harmon Field. Oh, but that's a mile away. The 200 cars or more can go out to Harmon Field. You can park the car and lock it. You pull into Harmon Field and we put a couple little things about this big, little signs about a foot. If you need a ride to downtown Tryon, call this number. You dial it, and we send someone out there. If it's a really busy weekend, we leave a golf cart there with a high school driver. And I also know, somebody go, well, you can't do that in the winter. You can rent a bus in the winter. And if you're going to have something with a lot of people coming in, that's an investment that you make. You can make that through the town of Tryon, because there's some of the things we can do there and pay for. You can do it through TDDA, and you can do it through donations. So there are lots of ways that you can do that.
I think some people are just wondering does this rise to the level of an investment strategy that will require a tax increase?
I don't plan on doing that, no. Now, can I say never? No. I've learned never say never. Army taught me that, coaching taught me that, being a principal taught me that, and teaching taught me that. But what I think we can do is the tax increase I talked about on businesses for an MSD, but that must be spent on the properties of where we take it from.
Well, I think...
But here's an example.
Okay.
If you're coming down this trail and walking, at some point you need a place to sit. That's what the town can pay for. At some place they're going to need a bathroom. That's what the town can pay for. I don't really know where one's going to be. I hope, and my goal is to have a small bathroom on the trail, not that far from where Morris's statue is now. And it would look like the first depot that we had, which was in that general area in the 1880s. And I happen to have a picture of it because I collect postcards about Tryon, and I have a picture with that on it. So, yes, that type of investment, yes. Other types of investment, if we're going to bring people in and out of town, we probably will have to pay for the golf carts or rent the golf carts one. That's reasonable.
Right. Those are all relatively modest not that ambitious investment plans.
True.
Right?
But I don't see the need for the type of thing you're talking about. You may be talking about 50, 100, couple $100,000, $500,000. I don't see that.
Okay.
I can't say it's not there, but I don't see it.
Okay, what about the bigger picture for Polk County? When I first thought about the trail and I first started attending meetings, everything was very positive. Like, this is going to be a no-brainer. Everyone's going to benefit from this. And I think that's still largely the message. But what about the possibility that, say, Tryon and Saluda might end up in a little bit of a competitive situation rather than exclusively cooperative? Because you could only put so many restaurants and ice cream shops along the trail.
Agreed. And I think that the needs for all four towns will change a little bit. We know the restaurants are there, but somebody is going to have one of the following. Okay, shoes, clothes, t-shirts, something along those lines. Somebody is going to need to make sure that there's extra parking somewhere close to the stores where it sells it. We can't do a whole lot on our main street. We can do the back street. Someone is going to want to come here, and I think they've already done it at Landrum. Didn't they get a bicycle shop there outside of Landrum?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Those people probably figured out that the rails or trails are going to come through this area. Okay, you have all those bicycles. Somebody needs to repair them. You got the guy up at Saluda who repairs mine. Nice guy. But if you are there and the trails come by, do you keep your business in Saluda at the end of the trail? Do you put it at Inman or Campobello at the beginning, or do you put it in the two larger towns? And I don't have an answer for that. Those people do. But we need a bike sale place and a bike shop. I got 3 bikes, and I bought all 2 of them from him. And he does all my repair work. If you have people to get in town, are you going to need to have a little lot setting somewhere that rents golf carts? Somebody can do that. Are you going to have that repair shop for bikes? Yes. So there's some of all of that, and probably things I haven't even thought about.
Sounds to me like it would be great if the business community was to get together and kind of agree on not pointless competition, needless duplication of effort.
Yes, I think business owners could do that, and I'm hoping that the peak in Columbus, and there's a discussion to combine all of the property.
The tourism development authorities?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want to keep our TDDA, but our TTDA, Tryon Tourism, if we consolidate all that, the money comes from one source. We can advertise more, advertise better, and each town, if we had one or more representatives, now I don't mean a federal representative, I just mean put some business people there. You also got the Chamber of Commerce. Those people, hopefully their main focus is on what can you bring to the town, keep here, or improve that's here.
Well, I've long thought that it makes sense to combine efforts when it comes to things like tourism development in Polk County, because we're just not that big.
Thank you.
And a lot of wasted people reinventing the wheels. So in a way, the trail might be the catalyst that finally convinces everyone to start getting a little more cooperative?
Yes. And I can tell you that an idea that I had that we worked on, I think before 2013, we were meeting with Saluda and Columbus and us and talking about putting the water systems together and have one water system. Didn't happen. It didn't happen, and here's part of why it didn't happen. We're all guilty of this. Just here's what I was told in the meeting. Y'all just want to host it in Tryon so y'all control everything. And I said, that's not true. What do you mean it's not true? I said, I proposed that we have a board of 5 or 7 people, everybody that has water, one from Tryon, one from Saluda, one from Columbus, one from the county, and an at-large. Number 5 could be a non-voting member unless there was a tie, and you could run it. And I think what killed that is we had a man to come in somewhere up towards past Asheville anyway. They put a county together, and the first thing he said is, hey, you'll need a lot of money, so y'all need to keep putting some in there every month from your town. And I looked at him and I said, you want me to give them my water system and then give them money to run it? I may as well keep it.
Yeah.
So Columbus has water out of the ground. Tryon has water that we get from Lake Lanier. Saluda gets their water from Henderson or Asheville or somewhere. But if we put those together, and we had a great idea, you know about the Saluda Grade water that didn't work?
Well, the engineering kind of failed.
No, it didn't fail. It failed miserably. And I knew the guy who designed it. I had nothing to do with it and did not know who hired him until I went to my sister-in-law's. And she goes, oh, my neighbor, y'all have hired him. I went, what? And so I lost the mayorship in 2013. And I had been called, we're going to testify in court. And they called me back and said, no, you don't have to testify. They've settled for $300 and some thousand. I went, what? It cost $4 million damn dollars. You settled for $300,000, and they did.
Yeah, fortunately, I don't think the Saluda Grade Trail project is going to suffer the same fate as the interconnect.
There is absolutely no question about that. But my point, and same thing you were saying, consolidated services. One of the other things I suggested one time was, we've got 1 or 2 tractors. Columbus has got 1 or 2 tractors. Saluda's got 1 or 2 tractors. Why do we need 6 or 7 tractors among the 3 towns? Because most of that goes to water and sewer and the repair thereof. And so, anyway, neither here nor there. Those are the things that I don't want to happen with the Saluda Trail. You know, Landrum's got this to work on it. Inman's got this. Campobello's got that. Tryon's got one of these. They got one at Saluda. If you had a combined, and I can't tell you where to keep it. I mean, all of us own a piece of property here or there. When I say us, the towns. We've got some properties. Put a warehouse on it, a small warehouse. And if you need a tractor, you go and you either drive it if it's close enough, or you put it on the trailer and somebody hauls it.
Well, you know, this brings up the whole notion of the distinction between the county and the municipalities. If all the municipalities are going to cooperate, isn't that something the county could do?
Oh, sure. But you asked me from the town of Tryon's point of view.
Yeah.
But yes, and now our county, I don't know whether they're lukewarm or warm, because it doesn't go through Columbus, and because it doesn't do that, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, no, that's an important point, because if not all the municipalities are involved, that creates a political friction.
But if there are more points of sale coming to the county and our taxes go up, theirs are too, because they get a larger portion than we do.
Yeah.
And that same thing is going to happen in Spartanburg and Greenville. I can't remember if any of Greenville County comes into it or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Maybe a corner. But you've got Spartanburg and Polk.
Overall, though, I'm getting a sense from you that you see an opportunity to take advantage of the unifying forces that this trail will create to maybe think about more cooperation, more consolidation and elimination of duplication of effort.
Well, yes. And I don't know if we're going to be able to do it across the counties, across the towns, or exactly what. But I know there has to be a starting place. And I know that there are places that have warehouses, buildings, covered areas that have equipment in it from more than one. State owns a ton of equipment. You can drive along most any area, and somewhere on the road there's this little thing that looks like a big teepee.
Yeah.
And it's in different counties, and you've got some trucks that can get there. When the snow and the ice hit, they go in there and get sand or salt and put it out, and it goes across counties. Sometimes if you're going from A to B, it might actually go across state lines for an interstate.
Right, so there's no real practical obstacle to doing that kind of collaborative effort.
The only practical obstacles you ever run into in things like that is territorial. And I don't care what it is, it's territorial. There's always going to be that.
That's human nature.
And it's human nature. Or there's somebody, and again, it's territorial, somebody goes, wow, everybody's got 25% each, but somebody wants 30. And that happens. and people promise that they will deliver A, B, or C, and that's the way politics works. I don't think I promise much of anything to my people, except I will be honest and give you the best I can give. And if I think it'll help most of the citizens of Tryon, I'll vote and work for it. And if not, I won't.
On that note, let's shift gears, talking about your responsibility to your voters, to your taxpayers. It's a little tricky for municipalities in North Carolina right now because the state government is basically telling you've got to spend more on your employees, right? Increase the benefits. But it's not supplying the money for that.
Correct. And we, at this point, probably supply more benefits than most.
You mean Tryon?
Yes.
Okay.
If you go to Tryon, and we have health insurance, we have vision, and we have dental. If you are in some areas, we just went from 2.5% matching with 401s and 403s to 3. We try to give a raise every year to 2.5%. I was an educator. My citizens have gotten a raise from the town of Tryon taxpayers when I was an educator before I retired that I didn't get. I didn't get anything those years. I've been retired 16 years and I've had one pay increase. The rest of them are one time.
Okay, so what is Tryon looking at in terms of the impact on the budget of these new requirements?
Well, we're already doing it, I think. We haven't had a whole lot of impact on us. We're raising taxes 3 cents, 2 cents. We thought we were going to have to raise it 3, and I think we can do it with 2.
Okay.
We had, when I got elected, we had 46 paid employees. Right now, if you take out the fire department, we have 36 or thereabouts. Now, the fire department is up to 7 or 8, but that's a separate fund. And the state has required more and more. As an example, if you go to a fire, you're supposed to have 4 people. We don't have 4 on duty. So guess what we're increasing? We're hiring more firemen.
Okay.
And when you hire people, the more you hire, the more you lose your volunteers. And that's just a fact. So we're moving eventually, maybe this year, if we can pull it off, with the funds and pay 4 people. Because I know that several times I've read of people saying, okay, we had a fire and we had volunteers, but only 2 or 3 got there. The state says 4. They don't give you any money to do it. So, and the state's just like the federal. They come out with, this is a great idea. And the public goes, yes. And then they get the tax bill and go, wait a minute, what's wrong with this?
Well, I know Saluda is going through a little bit of trouble balancing the budget, given what the increases they have to pay for their police officers, for instance. Rutherford is having similar problems.
All small towns are having the problems because it's almost impossible for them to pay what cities are paying. And the other thing that most people don't know is the state authorizes you can retire at 25 as a policeman. But what most people don't know is between 25 and 62, we have to continue paying you some every year. Were you aware of that?
I was.
So, and I don't know what it is. I think it's based on the amount you made when you retired. But I know we got some probably making $15,000 a year. And somebody goes, well, that's not too bad. What happens if you got 3?
Yeah.
$15,000 a year for us is a half a penny tax a year. If we have 2 of those, that's a full penny tax from whenever they retire to 62.
And for towns like those in Polk County, we're not huge retail, commercial, industrial communities. A lot of our tax revenue comes from residential property taxes.
Yes.
And the state is now going to get us to vote this November on a law that would basically take away control over how much you can raise your property taxes.
Well, one of the things I see is the state wanting to put that out there, then they want to see it happen because people complain. And everybody complains about taxes. But the first question I always ask, are you going to cut taxes? What service you want to give up? I mean, that's a given. I make $300 a month being mayor. The council makes $250 a month. So we're not the problem. Well, lowest paid manager in the county because he's retired. He came back. He's working about 3/4 time. He's getting ready to move here. His wife died about 4 months after mine did. And he's like me, you need something to do. So he's here. He saved us so much money and noted things. And this is an aside. When the federal changed the test you had to take to become a finance officer nationwide, North Carolina gave it. There were 3 people that passed it on the first go. My manager's one of those 3.
Okay, so Tryon's been lucky in a way.
Yes.
But you can't count on this forever.
You're correct. And at some point, we're going to have to raise tax. We did it this year. We raised some last year. And I'll give you another prime example. I want to say about 2008 or 2009, when the economy got really bad, you know what the state did? We had these, we're going to pay you this forever. Well, the first thing they did is took $45,000 back. At that time, it was 4 cents of tax for them. And then they put it out and said, okay, y'all can vote for this and we'll raise taxes by a penny. So we looked bad because it had to be put on the ballot, and it passed, so people said, this is a tax increase. The state legislature caused that by their recklessness with the budget back at that time.
What do you think people will get more upset, though, over? The idea of taxes going up, or the idea of losing the ability to control, at the town level, how much you tax, because that determines how much services you can provide.
In reality, the first thing is that people will be happy that we can't increase taxes so much. And at some point, the bill comes due, and the bill goes, why are you only picking up trash once a week? Well, why am I now having to go to a private trash pickup? We did this for all these years. Why is this happening now? Why aren't our streets paved? You know how much money we get a year to pave streets? $80,000.
That's not a whole heck of a lot.
You know where that spot is beside Stotts Ford on that big street? And it's about 100 yards long. We fixed some water pipes and stuff under that one time and paved it. $55,000, and that was over 10 years ago. You just don't tell them what it'll cost now. And with this, we have a streets department. And the state gives you $80,000 a year that can either pay for pavement and sidewalks or help. But it does not, for us, it pays for sidewalks and streets. But it doesn't pay the 2 people full-time that work there and another one. They work across departments at the time. It doesn't pay for the truck. It doesn't pay the insurance. It doesn't pay the retirement that we pay into the retirement system, ad infinitum, ad nauseam. And that's the part that people don't see, the hidden cost.
So this November, a lot of attention is going to be on things like U.S. House and the Senate.
Oh, yes.
That's where most of the attention is paid in the midterms. But on the ballot will be a question of whether or not towns get to raise their property taxes if they want to.
Well,
are you going to make an effort to encourage people to vote on that?
I think the legislature, the League of Municipalities we work with, I used to be on the board for 2 terms, and I was with the county commissions for a term. But they're going to fight it. And the reason they're going to fight it is because they're realists. Now, I learned this in the military. I learned this wherever you go. If you need $10, you got to ask for more than that, because whoever's above you is going to cut it some. That may not sound right, but it's reality. And whatever that reality is, I'm hoping that if they decided they want to do something, you can only go up a certain percent. And I hope they don't come out and say, okay, this is 58 cents per 100. That's it. You can never go higher than that. Everything looks great for 2 years. And then we get back like we were in 2008. And people downtown says, well, what's going on this year? And I said, I went and looked at the books. Unless I miss my guess, in the last roughly a year, we've taken in less sales tax than we did the year before. So that means that somewhere, and I don't know the number, I'll just take a wild guess, between 15 and 30,000, that's a full penny of tax that we didn't get back. We had Hurricane Helene. We're not out of it yet. We've already had over $1 million worth of damage at Harmon Field. There are buildings that got up and people go, wow, look at that log cabin. We have to tear it down. They'll give us the money for what it's worth, but that doesn't include what it costs to carry it down and build something else.
Yeah.
We lost 3 or 4, maybe 5 buildings. If you know where that white building is with the big green thing that had the public restrooms in it, the white building, the big one close to the old school,
Yeah.
can no longer use it. That can only be storage because it flooded.
So in other words, there's a lot of things we have to spend money on
Yes,
over the next little while.
yes. Now we're getting a lot of money back in that other building. You know what arts and crafts is? The other school, I used to be principal there. The other school building, which was a library and classroom building, is ours. It's paid for, but it's going to take $1 gazillion to fix it up and make a community center out of it. Well, all those other little buildings over there that you could do this in, and you could do this in, and you could do this in, and you had the screened-in area, they're gone. So that money we're going to pour into that building to get us a community center back. And I'd like to see a full kitchen in it. I'd like to see a couple of those rooms set aside for, private dinner for 10. Okay, you got white plastic tablecloths. White plastic tables, but you put a tablecloth on it, looks pretty decent. And then there's a fee for it. The fee is minor if you're a taxpayer. It's a little more than minor if you're not. So yeah, we thought through a lot of things.
But are you optimistic we can afford these projects?
We can, but it's going to be longer term than I wanted it. We've already gotten back about a little over $1 million from FEMA. Someone said, that's great. But the day that Harmon Field got destroyed is what I call it. I was out there and I got pictures of it on my phone. We had to lend Harmon Field $300,000. We lent them more money to clean up and fix up than they take in tax a year. Now, FEMA's giving it back, and tonight we're probably going to move that money back out of what FEMA gave us to the town taxpayers. And one of the questions, why are you moving back? It's all the town taxpayers. No, Harmon Field has the town inside and the ETJ outside. They pay a tax. Here, you're far enough out, they don't pay any tax on Harmon Field, but they get to use it. So there are a lot of catch-22s that people don't get. And I think that's the same type of thing that's going to happen with the railroad. People are suing, they can't come through here. If it ever changed from a railroad, it's supposed to revert to the family of the original owner. And they're going to sue for funds. But I think that it will be a boon for us. And I listen to people say, oh, it's going to be crime and stuff all over it. Well, you heard about a whole bunch of crime on the other ones you know about?
I've heard some people complain about stretches of the isothermal trail, in Spindale, Rutherford, but I haven't heard any problems on Swamp Rabbit.
Well, sometimes there are people on the trail who aren't hikers, they aren't joggers, and they aren't other things. There are drug addicts,
ne'er-do-wells,
or an implied, well, that's a good word, ne'er-do-wells. They're out there and they're looking for something for nothing, and you're going to find those everywhere. People break in the house. I had a kid that I taught millions of years ago, and my police department called me one morning and said, we caught this kid. They gave me his name. His neighbor was out of town. He broke into the neighbor's house and was stealing the silverware and woke them up. He didn't realize they were back in town. Caught him red-handed. So,
yeah, there's always going to be some problems. But I think to wrap this up then, you kind of shifted the conversation back in an optimistic way. You're saying, we have some challenges with budgets, but the net effect of the Rails to Trails project is going to be in the positive.
Yes, I think the net effect will be positive. I think the net effect will be more dollars, more people, higher sales, if you will. That translates to dollars. And there will be more people, once it's successful, willing to invest along those trails.
If I was to say what is the minimum I would like to see out of this trail, I would like to see empty storefronts filled. Even if you're not talking about expanding anything or building new buildings, just fill the empty storefronts. Because
when I first ran for mayor in 2001, we were $1.58 million in the red and had 16 empty storefronts in town. At this point, we have several, not many. We have some because a man died, and the people who've inherited it, I think, wouldn't like to sell it, but I think they're going to ask too much money for it. And that happens after a while. Reality sets in. We've got two buildings for sale in town. The little white one where Ward's Investments was. But it would make a neat little something about that size. It's about the size of a bodega, two sides to it. You put two small businesses in that. Somebody will buy that and invest.
All right. Well, let's revisit in a couple of years and see how things are going.
Yeah, because I got a little bit over 2 years left on this term, and I'm 80 years old. Someone said, "Please don't put this in
your last term."
I'll answer the same way I asked the last person, depending on who pisses me off. I did not run for this to make the money. I did not run for this for glory. I ran for it because I didn't like the way my town looked at the time. You know why I ran for county commission?
Same reason?
Sort of the same reason. I went over town and they were talking about somebody had wanted to tear the courthouse down and put basically a metal building there in the courthouse. So I signed on, and that was my primary thing, was to fight to save the courthouse, and we did. And then we built the Walmart building, which was going to be a metal building. And I said, no, we aren't. We're going to fix it with that frame, and we'll put brick on it. That costs more, yes, but it doesn't look like shit.
I think people are pretty happy with the end result there.
I think you're right.
We'll just leave it there, and again, we'll catch up again after a lot of these things have had time to percolate through to reality.
I hope so. I'm the eternal optimist.
All right. Thanks so much.
You're more than welcome.
That's it for this episode. You can always reach me by emailing jamesH@polklore.com with suggestions for folklore topics and guests. Anything that affects the culture, politics, economy, or geography of Polk County is fair game. Thanks for listening.